Welcome back into the Bangtan Universe wormhole. This video is part of the 7 series, in which we profile the 7 main characters of the Bangtan Universe one at a time. Each video is designed to give you an overview of the character's personality, motivations, struggles, and growth. To profile the 7 characters, we'll need to discuss their storylines within the BU, so that means major spoilers ahead. Let's take a look now at YoonGi, the tortured artist. Before we get into his story, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell so you won't miss out on our newest content. Now let's get started. YoonGi is an only child. His mother is an award-winning classical pianist. Although he shares her love for the piano, she is obsessive about classical music, refusing to let him compose his own music and demanding that he play Chopin with the right emotion instead of playing what he feels. She is rigid, obsessive, and, as it turns out, suffering from major mental illness. We don't know much about YoonGi's father except that he's an ex-soldier and a strict disciplinarian. YoonGi has at least one screaming match with his mother when he's in his early teens. When he gets fed up with her domineering attitude toward music, he throws one of her trophies at the piano, knocking loose a key which strikes his cheek. A bit over a year later, his mother sets the house on fire on purpose and allows herself to burn to death. YoonGi comes home while the house is on fire, and when a neighbor asks him if anyone is inside, he says no because he's in shock and can't think clearly. His guilt over this answer continues to haunt him, and he also worries that he might have inherited his mother's mental illness. After the fire, YoonGi lives alone with his father, who enforces total silence at meals and after dark. The silence drives YoonGi crazy, but he can't bring himself to move out. He also struggles with a love-hate relationship toward the piano. On the one hand, he loves music, but on the other hand, he associates the piano with his mother's attitude toward him and with her death. Her piano was destroyed in the fire, but YoonGi goes back to the site after her funeral and picks up a single burnt piano key, which he keeps in a desk drawer. YoonGi comes off as tough and sarcastic, but he actually cares very deeply about his friends. He enjoys entertaining them in their hideout by playing the piano stored in there. The boys sing and dance to his music, and he composes original tunes for them and for himself. YoonGi also has an intuitive understanding of everyone else's thoughts and needs. For instance, when he notices that Jungkook is always anxious and lonely, he takes Jungkook under his wing and teaches him how to play the piano. Unfortunately, his piano playing with Jungkook leads to his separation from the group. It starts when he and Jungkook are alone in the storage room. They're not supposed to be there, and a teacher finds them and hits Jungkook. YoonGi leaps to his defense and pushes the teacher, and thus YoonGi is expelled. This tips the balance in YoonGi's love-hate relationship with music, making him swear never to play the piano again. He even throws away the burnt piano key he rescued after the fire. Then YoonGi starts drinking heavily and wandering around alone, excusing his behavior by telling himself that every time someone gets close to him, they get hurt. So he avoids all his friends, even Jungkook, and he grows increasingly depressed. By the time Seokjin returns from the US, YoonGi has become actively suicidal. He decides to end his life like his mother did, by fire. So he rents a hotel room, douses it with gasoline, and sets it on fire. Then he sits down with a pile of his sheet music and waits to die. One of Seokjin's missions as a time traveler is to save YoonGi's life and give him a reason to keep on living. Eventually, he discovers that Jungkook is the key to saving YoonGi. The two of them had reconnected not long ago after Jungkook broke into a music store to play the piano there. YoonGi heard him while he was wandering around drunk, and his natural sympathy took over. He made the effort to reach out. And as Seokjin discovers, YoonGi and Jungkook have a lot in common as far as depression, anxiety, and loneliness. They're both looking for a reason to live, and they can be each other's reasons. YoonGi will stay alive for Jungkook when he won't stay alive for anyone else, and vice versa. The YoonGi Era shows the boys dealing with all the temptations, mistakes, and general confusion that comes with growing up. Each of the older boys, aside from Seokjin, becomes a mentor to one of the younger boys. YoonGi mentors Jimin. This may seem odd since YoonGi has a special connection with Jungkook, but the argument at the cottage affected everyone's relationships. Besides, YoonGi was aware of Jimin's distress in the HYYH era, even when the others missed it, and he offered support in quiet but important ways back then. Unfortunately, YoonGi's support of Jimin turns to protection during the Wings era. And Jimin doesn't need protection while he's trying to grow, he needs exploration. So in the end, he rebels against YoonGi and tries to find his own way. In the Love Yourself era, YoonGi meets a guitar player who becomes his music partner. Yes, he's playing music again. He can never stay away from the piano for long, even when he tells himself he'll never play again. His quote-unquote girl encourages him to continue playing, but their partnership doesn't last long. When YoonGi hears about Jungkook's hit-and-run accident, he rushes to the hospital, but he has a panic attack on the way to Jungkook's room and runs away. Then he immediately gets drunk out of guilt. When his music partner tries to help him, he shoves her away, and eventually he passes out in the street. HYYH finds him there and surprisingly yells at him to stop wallowing in self-pity and to think about his friends. When HYYH leaves, YoonGi staggers off into the dark and finds himself climbing a mountain almost by accident. He's exhausted, freezing cold, and utterly lost when suddenly he hears music. He recognizes the piece as an unfinished composition he once worked on in the storage room. And there on the mountain, in the freezing dark, YoonGi realizes he wants to finish that composition. He doesn't care about fame or glory, but he does care about music. It's who he is. He lives for it. So he follows the notes back down the mountain, returns to his workroom, and finishes his composition. He names it Hope. When Seokjin's girl was killed and the loop restarted, all the growth YoonGi experienced on the mountain was erased, and he was back to square one. However, the revelation he had on that mountain seems to be his destiny, because he has the same revelation in this new loop, on almost the same day it came to him in the old loop. It even starts the same way, with YoonGi having a panic attack in the hospital and running away to get drunk. But this time when he passes out in the road, HYYH isn't there to yell at him and get him moving. Instead, YoonGi begins running in what seems like a dream, but turns out to be at least partly real. He slips in and out of a dream state and finally enters the school storage room, despite the fact that it's nighttime and the room should be locked. There, YoonGi sees the old piano and remembers the sheet music he stashed inside it. He wrote so many pieces for his friends, including the unfinished piece, which led him down the mountain in a previous loop. YoonGi takes the sheet music and somehow leaves the storage room and the school without being seen by a security guard, who mutters something about hearing a ghost. Then YoonGi goes home and finishes the unfinished piece. YoonGi's most important scene in this chapter of the BU comes when Seokjin finally reaches out to his friends for help. Seokjin is fighting as hard as he can to break the cat's spell, but the pain is too much for him and he collapses on the floor. He's curled up in a ball when his phone rings and he answers it with only a tap. Suddenly he hears music. Something prompted YoonGi to send his special composition to Seokjin, and to send it at just that moment. Hearing it reminds Seokjin of all the happiness, sadness, hope, and pain he experienced with his friends. And although it doesn't free him completely from the cat's grip, it gives him the strength to get up off the floor and start fighting again. Without YoonGi and his music, Seokjin would never have defeated the cat. YoonGi's mother despised his originality, and his father forced him to be silent and follow meaningless rules. But in doing so, they repressed everything that made YoonGi YoonGi. The result was a love-hate relationship with music, and since YoonGi lives and breathes music, it also resulted in a love-hate relationship with himself. The solution for him was to choose love over hate. YoonGi learned how to love himself wholeheartedly, and now he can reach out to his friends wholeheartedly.